Now, an incident from Kerala that has the entire country's head hanging in shame. A pregnant elephant was fed an explosive-laden fruit that burst as it chomped on it. Left with a broken jaw and mangled tongue, she walked in pain for days. She didn't go on a rampage, she didn't harm a single living being, yet paid the price for trusting a human being.
Traumatized, weak and fragile, she waded through the river. She knew she wouldn't survive. The injury was serious. But the thought of her unborn baby was her driving force. She wasn't a beast, just a beauty who wandered into a village in Kerala in search of food so that her fetus was fed. As this 15-year-old walked on the streets, she was fed a pineapple stuffed with firecrackers. As soon as she took the first bite, the fruit exploded. Her jaw broke, her tongue mangled. Even in searing pain, she did not harm anyone. Just walked into a river to soothe her pain, where she breathed her last. She must have been shocked to not think about herself, but about the child she was going to give birth to in a few months. An emotional forest officer could not stop himself from penning down the pain and shock he felt looking at the dead pregnant elephant. Even the doctor who performed the autopsy couldn't hold back his tears during the procedure.
Killing the animals is not a method to solve the issue of human-wildlife conflict. So I would say that this should be definitely strict action should be taken against these people. This is basically, I would say, that is what I said. This is against the living world, and that to think. We are talking about biodiversity, we are talking about tolerance, we are talking about coexistence.
This heartbreaking and inhuman act has triggered a massive storm. Top celebrities and politicians only demanding stricter laws and punishment to protect our animals.
No, it's not an incident, it's a murder. What has happened is that a pregnant elephant who had there was no conflict between her and people. She had simply come out to try and find some food. Mallapuram is very famous for incidents like this. It is the most violent district in the whole of India.
An FIR has now been filed against unknown persons. But with this betrayal in God's own country, humanity surely died 1,000 deaths. Bureau Report, Times Now.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
It's an absolutely shocking story, and we are asking our viewers to join us, express yourselves. What do you think about this absolutely ghastly incident? In fact, responses coming in from different fields, from the field of Bollywood, from the corporate world, several people on Twitter expressing their angst and even, of course, attracting global attention. But let's quickly go across to our guests first who are joining us. Meet Ashar is with us. He's on the emergency response team of PETA India, and also advisor of the Maharashtra Animal Welfare Board. Ambika Shukla, trustee of the Sanjay Gandhi Animal Care Center, is joining us as well. Ambika Shukla, I'd like to come to you first. And this is one incident. There are, of course, incidents of cruelty that take place in the past. This is one incident that has completely shaken all of us because of the absolute cruel nature of this act, and that was a pregnant elephant on top of all of that.
Yes, it's absolutely shocking. It's horrifying, but like you said, it's not the only incident of cruelty. We face so much animal cruelty in India, which is really unnecessary, which is puzzling in a country which is founded on non-violence, where Mahatma Gandhi said the civilization of a nation can be judged by the way it treats its animals. And we have incidents like this on almost a daily basis. This incident has caught the imagination of the country and the world, and I hope it will focus attention on what happens to our animals. Kerala, which is supposed to be an educated state, they say cruelty comes from ignorance, but Kerala seems to repudiate that theory. It is supposed to be 100% literate, and yet it is the cruelest state in India. It is one of the 2 states where cow slaughter is permitted. You have hundreds and thousands of sick,
Yeah.
old and weak cows marched across the borders every day to be killed and slaughtered in their slaughterhouses, bludgeoned to death,
Yeah.
and then their throats slit with blood, just bleeding to death.
Yes.
And now this, and
You know-
elephants are treated particularly poorly, really savagely.
Ambika Ji, please stay with us. I also want to quickly go across to our callers. Gauri Maulekhi also joining us. She's a trustee of People for Animals on our broadcast. But I want to quickly go across to our callers as well who are with us. Vaishnavi is joining us from Mumbai. Yes, Vaishnavi.
To say that the laws have to be made very strict. This is not done, not accepted from any of the animal lovers. We have been shaken to the core. I have not been able to sleep. My mental peace is all disturbed. She was a mom. She was murdered. Her kid was murdered. This is not the way to deal with the crops. They are saying it's a crops issue, that save the wild boars, they protect the crops from the wild boars.
But a very cruel way,
this is-
absolutely, very cruel way of actually dealing with animals. There's no two ways about that. Let me quickly get in a word from Gauri Maulekhi as well. Gauri Maulekhi, there are other ways that can be used. The man-animal conflict is not something that is unknown in, agriculture that takes place in areas that surround forested areas. There are several other ways and non-violent ways in which this can be dealt with.
Correct. And those ways are much more scientific. In fact, this particular death of the elephant, the murder of this elephant, is not an incident. It's a policy decision of the Kerala government. Very few people know that last month, the Kerala government actually passed an order allowing people, locals, to indiscriminately kill
I'm sorry, we are not getting your video very clearly. We will try and rectify that. And I apologize for interrupting you because of the technical problem. I'm going to quickly go across to some of our other callers before I go across to Meet. Ajay is with us from Delhi. Yes, Ajay.
You see, this is really shocking, and my whole family was disturbed today. Yeah. What I was saying is that my whole family was disturbed today after getting this news from the media. But this is not only the one incident which is being coming up. This has come because of the media only. There are a number of incidences which are taking place. But only thing what we want is that there should be a brutal and also the stricter laws should be made by the authorities so that at least once we are seeing these voiceless animals being killed like anything. It is a murder.
Absolutely, sir. I don't think cruelty has any place. As human beings, our humanity should come first, whether it's for human beings or animals. I completely agree with you on that. But we also have Vinod joining us from Palakkad on the phone line. Yes, Vinod.
Yeah. See, today I am seeing. I am from Kerala. I am same incident. This is not the first time, Madhavdas. Couple of months back, a pregnant cat hanged to death. And this is today, it is gradually it is growing. Now it is elephant. And the humans are murdered. I don't think so Kerala can be called as a God's own country now. It is a devil's country now.
Ironically, sir, elephants are part of temple worship in Kerala. And this is the way people behave. That is what I find absolutely shocking. Thanks so much for joining us, sir. We have Bhaskar Rao joining us from Hyderabad. Yes, Bhaskar Rao.
Yeah, good evening. Just like to say that this is possibly the most sad incident that I've ever heard of. And frankly, I think the people who have perpetrated this, they should be made to suffer the same. Maybe they should be fed live firecrackers and they should experience.
Well, an eye for an eye certainly is certainly a very strong sentiment that has been expressed by several. We don't justify that, but certainly this incident has evoked very strong sentiments. Let me go across to Meet Ashar. Meet Ashar, what does it take for people to behave in this absolutely cruel, decadent and disturbing manner as we are seeing on our screens over here in this very ghastly incident that has taken place in Kerala?
Absolutely. It's absolutely shocking and painful what has happened to the female elephant and her unborn baby. But through this, I think the bigger issue has been highlighted, which is how cruelly wild animals are being killed. And this issue, let me clarify, is not limited to the state of Kerala, but it's across the country. Several states have this method of, several farmers, several people who want to protect their agricultural lands use these methods very commonly of lacing either fruits, vegetables, food grains, or meat with such explosives that are, made by, that are handmade. And as soon as the animal ingests it, the animal doesn't die instantly, but it's a slow and painful death that the animal suffers. Like in this case, the elephant had to suffer for 4 days, and she died a very slow and painful death. The same fate, the other wild animals that become victims of such cruel methods that are being adopted, like wild boars and other wild animals. So I think the need of the hour is to put an end to such a cruel practice, because whether it is a wild boar or whether it is a peacock or an elephant, every animal deserves protection, and no animal deserves to be killed like this.
Absolutely.
And this legalization by the
basic
state,
basic humanity cannot be lost. We certainly can't be committing these ghastly acts. Otherwise, we certainly don't deserve to be called human beings. Let's go across to some of our other callers. Venkat Rao is with us from Bengaluru. Yes, Venkat.
Sir, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, this is absolutely rubbish. Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is absolutely rubbish.
Well, I agree with you.
How can these people call themselves as they are from the God's own country?
Well, absolutely. This is very, very shocking behavior. This is certainly
very shocking, sir. Very, very shocking. Very, very shocking. Elephant is considered to be our God.
Yes.
And
yes, absolutely.
How can these people kill the animal?
And a pregnant animal at that. Very shocking, certainly, Venkat Rao. I completely agree with you. This is something that is completely unacceptable. Bharti is with us from Bengaluru. Yes, Bharti.
Hello, sir. Sir, it is very shocking to listen to this. It's making more of inhuman. I do not know, is this the frustration of people doing animals? What is this? So insane these human beings are.
Absolutely. I think that we should all hang our heads in shame for whoever has committed this act. Bharti ji, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Saini is with us from Delhi. Yes, Mr. Saini.
I think, we human beings really need help, because somewhere we really utilized our ability as a superior being, right from COVID, and the way we are, killing animals just because they can't defend themselves. It's shameful. And we should really hang our heads in shame. That's my limited point. And they need to be, the law needs to get more serious, and they ought to be more, it ought to be a criminal offense if something like that happens, because just because the poor
The problem, sir, is that people get away by paying a fine of 50 rupees for cruelty to animals. That's how shockingly lax our law is. Let me go across to our next caller. SS Raheja is with us from Delhi. Yes, Mr. Raheja.
Sir, it is really very crucial and cruel and shameful act on the part of such person who has done it. Will there be any action against that person?
Well, sir, we certainly hope there is action, and we will, of course, take that question across to our panelists. But I first want to go across to Regina, who's joining us from Mumbai. Yes, Regina.
Yes, hi. I'm just sick and tired of hearing all of this happening. First they cull dogs, now it's the elephants. This is the government's responsibility, and it's not the responsibility of the villagers to make sure that their crops are not hampered. This is, I do not know. I mean, we talk about purity, and keeping things clean, but it's our hearts that are dirty. We are not the only ones inhabiting this country, this world.
Very well said, Regina. When you talk about purity, it is fairly in our hearts. It's for us as human beings to reflect on our own actions and collectively as a society what we do, because all of this represents us, unfortunately. Thanks so much for joining us, Regina, and sharing your thoughts. Let me go across to Ambika Shukla once again and ask her, what do you think, ma'am, would be the punishment for a person even if he is caught? Because, a fine of 50 rupees at times, that's what people get away with.
No, there is another section as well. It's under the IPC, the Indian Penal Code, section 428 and 429, which is a cognizable offence, wherein people who injure or kill an animal are liable to go to jail for up to 2 years, as well as pay a penalty as a fine. So there is that section that can be applied, and it is a much more stringent provision than the foolish rupees 50, which actually was made in 1960. In 1960, you can see that the founders of our constitution took animal cruelty so seriously that in 1960, where 50 rupees was equivalent to what would be perhaps 50,000 today, that is how they valued or punished the crime of animal cruelty. And it is so regressive that we have not changed the penalty to match today's rates, that it remains the same penalty as it was in 1960.
Absolutely.
When prices have changed.
And this is perhaps something that even the government and lawmakers across the country must very seriously reflect on. Can we allow such lax acts for these kind of, I don't even want to use the word beastly, because that is actually insulting beasts. This is beyond any kind of depravity what has happened in Kerala. It is high time that we as a society reflect on the manner in which we treat our animals, because the entire world is looking at this incident in Kerala, one of the most educated societies in India, because this reflects on all of us as a whole. I'd like to thank Ambika Shukla as well as Meeta Shah for joining us on the show tonight. And with that, it's a wrap on the Newshour Agenda.